We don't have to settle for crumbling bureaucracies that target taxpayers and harm our veterans. We don't have to resign ourselves to debt, decay, and slow growth. We have the power to make things new again, to project America's strength again, and to get our economy going again. And that is exactly why today I am running for the presidency of the United States of America.
All right, folks, welcome aboard the Friday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show. And that man there, wearing the blue tie, is now here wearing a very unique red tie. Rick Perry, former governor of the great state of Texas, and of course, Republican presidential candidate. And you can check him out at rickperry.org, by the way. Great to see you.
Steve, thank you.
The tie is, for those who can't see the difference between mine and yours, you've got little state of Texas all over the tie.
Little Texas.
I love that.
There.
So congratulations on the announcement.
Thank you.
And how are things going?
Good. It was a good announcement. It was 3 years of preparation. We realized in 2011 that if we're going to be give ourselves the opportunity to be a competitive candidate for the presidency, that we need to prepare well a foundation, and we've done that. We've spent the time not only in personal preparation, whether it's on foreign policy, domestic policy, monetary policy, but also in those states building a really good foundation in Iowa, in New Hampshire, and South Carolina.
Where you have moved up in the latest caucus poll in Iowa, according to the Dallas Morning News today. So that's good news for you.
Well, it is. And I think as people listen, as people really start focusing on this, the executive experience after what will have been 8 years of a young, inexperienced United States Senator, and the challenges that this country has economically, the challenges that we see internationally with America's standing in the world. Executive leadership is going to be very, very important, I think, to Americans.
And in this particular large Republican field, you're not the only governor or ex-governor. There's a plethora of them, if you want to count Bush and Walker, who will get in, and maybe Christie. And I mean, so how do you distinguish yourself? But being the governor and having the executive experience is a great selling point. But how do you distinguish from the others?
Yeah, and 14 years of being the chief executive for the 12th largest economy in the world. I mean, this is an economy that's basically the same size as Canada or Australia. We created more jobs from 2007 through 2014. 1.5 million jobs, while the rest of the country collectively lost 400,000. So it's not just the 14 years of executive experience, right. It's the results. What you do while you were there. This is going to be a show me, don't tell me election, and I'm very proud of the record that we had. Nobody even got close to doing what Texas did during one of the most trying times economically in this country's history since the Great Depression. That's when you really want to see how somebody performed. Listen, when it's all blue sky and the wind behind your back, it's a little bit easier to create jobs. Right. But what'd you do when times were tough? And that's where I think our policies, tax policy, regulatory policy, and I think it's really going to get down to, Steve, do you really believe in the 10th Amendment? Do you believe in allowing these states to compete against each other? I do. I've talked about that. I don't think that the federal government or a bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. can create curriculum for this vast, diverse country, one size fits all. It doesn't work on health care, it doesn't work on education, frankly it doesn't work on transportation policy. So allow these states to really compete, and people will figure out where they want to live.
I want you to listen to, because the executive experience is great, but the next question out of some voters would be, okay, foreign policy. I want you to weigh in on what Josh Earnest said in an exchange with the reporter about denying any blame whatsoever for Obama when it came to ISIS. Let's watch this.
So as the group that the president disparaged as a junior varsity team rose up from a defeated AQI and gathered enough strength to be able to take over huge swaths of territory in Syria and Iraq, this was chiefly the fault of al-Maliki, and Barack Obama bears no responsibility whatsoever.
Well, James, I think the point is the Iraqi people, the Iraqi government, the Iraqi security forces have to be responsible for the security situation in their own country.
He also, by the way, Ernest, earlier in that conversation, blamed the previous administration. Right. Blamed Joy. If we never went in, there wouldn't have been AQI, so there would never have been ISIS. But that, just no culpability whatsoever.
Yeah. This is a standard operating procedure for this administration. When the fact is, the reason there is an ISIS today is because of the lack of, we had multiple opportunities to stop ISIS, and this president took the step back. No, we don't want to be engaged. We saw it in Libya. We saw their lack of engagement in Egypt. We could have stopped ISIS, I will suggest to you, in Syria, funding those Syrian rebels early on, and a byproduct of that, most likely gotten rid of Assad as well. And we could have stopped them when they went into northern Iraq, into that Kurdistan region with the Peshmerga fighters, giving them lethal weaponry. They were fighting for their homes. They were fighting for their families, and they would have stopped them at that particular point in time. Again, I think this president has a hard time connecting the dots, and connecting the dots of our being engaged in a forward-leaning position, if you will. You know, the question I think that needs to be asked is, if knowing what we know today, would Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama pulled out of Iraq at that particular point in time? Would we have been better off if we had left a force there to maintain the peace?
A SOFA, and they didn't want a SOFA. So when the Iraqis said, well, we want this and that, they backed off, said, oh, we can't agree, we're out, goodbye. All right, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Let me ask you, we're awaiting a Supreme Court decision on Obamacare. I could ask you what you would do if you were still governor if the subsidies go bye-bye, but shouldn't the Republicans have already, maybe yesterday, in anticipation of a decision, before the decision, say, okay, here's our alternative to Obamacare. We just passed it. So once the decision comes down, and if it goes in favor of the Republicans, Obama can't come out, the Democrats can't come out and say, now what? Chaos. Look, now they got what they want. You lose your subsidies. Shouldn't the Republicans be proactive at this point?
Well, I think they are in a lot of cases. And part of this goes.
Passed anything yet.
Part of this goes back to a philosophical disagreement that all decisions need to be made in Washington, D.C. I have been of the position and stated it for years. We didn't expand Medicaid. I said, you know, we don't want to be expanding a broken system. The president himself in 2009 said Medicaid is broken. I agreed with him then. Right. I agree with him today. It's still broken. Well, I don't know whether he thinks it's still broken, but it is. Right. The point is, these states are where you either believe in the 10th Amendment or you don't. I am a believer in the 10th Amendment. The states, you block grant these states, they'll come up with a host of different ideas. What will work in Connecticut may not work in Oklahoma. Yeah, right. Allow these governors, these legislatures working with their healthcare professionals in those states to come up with the vast array, a lot of different choices. I mean, why should we force people to buy insurance? This ought to be an issue of access to health care.
Right,
and
personal choice.
And what we did in the state of Texas is we expanded access to health care by passing massive tort reform. There's 35,000 more physicians licensed to practice medicine in Texas in 2013 than there was in 2003, in 2003.
That's not really typical because they're dying off. They're going away.
My point is, allow these states to come up with the programs and give people choice. Don't force them in. I mean, let people pick and choose.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Okay, in this segment we have about a minute left. Fast track passed the House yesterday for the president. What about the optics of a Republican leadership in Congress that keeps saying this man violates the law, this man violates the Constitution, and then it's, hey, buddy, we're going to work with you. Let's work. What message does it send to voters?
It's a real challenge with this president who hasn't been the most trustworthy when it comes to being transparent with the American people. I'm a very pro-economic development, pro-free trade
I've heard you speak at length about it, yes.
I believe that America can compete with anybody in the world if we have a level playing field. This ability to put a trade act into place that is transparent so that Congress and the American people know what's in it, very important.
So would you vote to give the president the what he wants?
You know, I have a hard time giving this president the right to be negotiating for us.
You don't trust him?
I don't trust him. I don't think the American people trust him, and the fact is we do need an act in place that is transparent, that allows the president to be able to negotiate, but then it has to be open, where Congress can look at it up or down vote.
We're coming back, segment 2, more with the governor. Don't go away. And we are back with Rick Perry, former governor of Texas, of course, running for president of the United States. And check out rickperry.org. Let me ask you, I know you've been asked about this before, and Donald Trump. When you're up on the debate stage, if he's up there with you and he starts calling people names and, you know, and this guy's an idiot, this guy's a jerk, and I'm talking about you guys, how do you deal with that?
Well, I'm going to pivot to what I want to be talking about, and it's going to be about job creation. And
does he add or subtract? Does he drive the debate at all?
I think everyone's going to have their role in this debate. So I don't get confused that I want to share with the American people my story about the future of this country's bright. And the future of this country's bright because I've had the experience with the 12th largest economy in the world of creating all of these jobs. And I think that executive experience plus the military experience is what Americans are going to be looking for. They want somebody that's had experiences like them. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be the only guy on that stage that grew up 16 miles from the closest place that had a post office with a house and no running water. So that matters. I think those things, those life experiences really matter.
And you wouldn't pick Oprah Winfrey as your running mate?
I don't think Oprah's going to be in the mix.
All right. I want you to watch what the president had to say yesterday, and it was echoed by Hillary Clinton not long after. This was before they even took the bodies out of the historic church in in Charleston before, after the tragic shooting. Watch what the president had to say.
I've had to make statements like this too many times. Communities like this have had to endure tragedies like this too many times. We don't have all the facts, but we do know that, once again, innocent people were killed in part because someone who wanted to inflict harm had no trouble getting their hands on a gun.
All right. Exploitation of a tragedy?
Well, that's always the knee-jerk reaction, is that if we can just take the guns out of the hands of everyone in this country, these types of things won't happen again. As long as evil and cowardice is alive in the world, and I suggest it has been and it will be, there will be people who have, for whatever reason, again, we don't know, as the president said, we don't have all the facts, and I'm not ready to point to any particular policy, but I know that we need to be working to bring people together in this country. It's one of the reasons that we work so hard in the state of Texas to create an environment where you could get an education. Texas now has the second highest overall high school graduation rate in America. If you're African American in America and you live in Texas, you live in the state that has the #1 high school graduation rate.
Which is so very, very important.
It is so important to this.
It gives hope and it gives you a chance.
And that's where I would like to see the next president of the United States really focused on bringing this country together, allowing those states to come up with programs to improve education opportunities.
As you did, but I do want to ask, is that, did he go too quickly to the microphone and blame guns? And is this just an attempt to exploit a situation in your view?
This is the MO of this administration. Anytime there is an accident like this, the president's clear. He doesn't like for Americans to have guns.
Right.
And so he uses every opportunity, this being another one, to basically go parrot that message.
There's a debate going on today especially, should this be called an act of terror as opposed to whatever they're calling it, crime or murder or terror?
Well,
what's the line there in your view?
I don't know, but I think the facts, once we get them, there were more people than that killed in Paris. This was a crime of hate. We know that. And also I think there's a real issue to be talked about. It seems to me, again, without having all the details about this one, that these individuals have been medicated. And there may be a real issue in this country from the standpoint of these drugs and how they're used. I know for a fact, being a substantial supporter of our military and our veterans, that the Veterans Administration, for instance, is handing out these opioids in massive amounts. Yes. And then people question, well, why can't these young individuals get work, or why is the suicide rate so high? So, I mean, there are a lot of issues here underlying this that I think we as a country need to have a conversation about, rather than just the knee-jerk reaction of saying, you know, if we can just take all the guns away, this won't happen.
I got two more for you. Confederate flag. A lot of people are saying it should come down from South Carolina State House. What's your view on the Confederate flag?
Well, there was a Supreme Court case just finalized that basically said the state of Texas could prohibit the Confederate license plate.
You agree with that?
Yes, I do agree with that. That you know, that's their state's decision.
Right.
And again, that needs to be made in South Carolina. This doesn't need to be something.
So state by state should decide.
They
Where do
make
you
those
personally
decisions.
fall on it?
Listen, I agree that we need to be looking at these issues as ways to bring the country together. And if they're, you know, if these are issues that are pushing us apart, then maybe there's a good conversation that needs to be had about.
Brian Williams, it was announced today he's coming back as the voice or special reporter for MSNBC. If he calls you up and says, "I want to do an exclusive sit-down with you," would you talk to Brian Williams one-on-one?
I probably would. You know, I'm about second chances. I think this is a country about second chances. So, you know, we give kids second chances in Texas with our criminal justice reforms, and you know, Brian Williams made a mistake. He's admitted he made a mistake, and you know,
Okay.
come back
Brian?
and perform.
Okay, Governor, a pleasure. Thank you very much. RickPerry.org if you want to find out more and help the campaign. Good luck, sir. Great to see you. We're coming back, folks, with more. Don't go away. Thank you.